Hello again everyone. It's time for another layout update on my HO scale Rocky Mountain model railroad featuring the city of Fairview. In this update we're going to be concentrating on the process of building a new store for the city, the Deli King. But before we get started, there's just time for the BNSF local freight service to roll into town, so we'll just take a moment to watch that arriving. Alright then, let's have a look at the building of the Deli King then. So as you can see, the model started off as a 3D print, something I'm exploring now about a basis for some of my buildings at least. And then I simply clad that base model with embossed plastic card, a brick pattern, to create the basic shell of my model. Each piece of the brick card was simply cut to size and then laminated onto the appropriate face of the model to create that starting point. Naturally, there was an element of fettling and fiddling a little just to get things right, but this first stage went really quite quickly, quite smoothly, and soon I had a completed shell of the model to start the next stage. Okay, so after a coat of primer, I could turn my attention to painting and detailing the model. One thing I really enjoy is coming up with designs for the signs for these buildings. This one I put together in Microsoft PowerPoint, laminated the paper printout to some plastic card, and then that could be located front and center on the face of the building, ready to tell the citizens of Fairview what they can expect to buy when they visit the store. One of the trickier parts of making this particular model was that I wanted to have one of these modern glass-fronted facades, and I'd seen some other modelers doing this technique where you print out like an outline of how you want the glasswork and the frame to look at the end. So I did that, then cut out a piece of clear plastic card to the right size, and slowly but surely, step by step, began to build up the framework. As you can probably see in one or two of these shots, it didn't always work quite as well as I'd have liked because the glue sometimes seeped through to the paper underneath. Perhaps should have had a sheet of glass there or something. But as it began to come together, it looked actually quite fine. I was quite happy with it. So it's certainly a technique I want to try and use again in the future. And so once that facade had been glued into place, I just found a random image on the internet of a deli counter, printed that off and stuck it into the back of the model so that there was a believable interior, and that was the main build done. And then once I'd added a few more details, some vents and things like that, gave the whole building a quick wash and some weathering powders and things, and it was ready to take its place on the high street, ready to serve its first customers. And here it is in place. It's already attracting the first customers, which is great. Some delicious smells wafting out of the kitchen. So there's still plenty of work to do around this area, but it's starting to come together really quite nicely now. Feels like it won't be long before it's all sorted. Alright, so just before I go, there's time to show you these two cars. I'm really trying to push ahead now with weathering up all my rolling stock, and I experimented for the first time with a combination of airbrush and weathering powders. So these two 3-bay, 2-bay covered hoppers had a base coat of just a sort of a grimy, dull black brown, then weathering powders to add some extra stains and things, a light dusting with an airbrush of a sort of sandy, dusty colour along the bottom. Overall, I think the two cars look pretty cool. I didn't want to go over the top with the weathering. Tried to do something a little bit more subtle this time. Now, there's a reason why I've started to make a bit of a push on weathering all these cars, and it's because looking at Lance Mindheim's books about shelf layouts has got me thinking about expanding my operations into something of a new area. At the moment, my local traffic, which goes to various virtual industries, I'm imagining they're located in some kind of industrial park outside the city. And when they reach my fiddle yard, my staging area, I simply put them up here on the shelf above. Well, now I'm thinking about actually building a small switching layout somewhere else in the house where I could transfer these cars to that switching layout and have some extra operations going on. It's still early days whether I'm actually going to develop this into a fully fledged mini layout, maybe something for the coming winter, but I'll be sure to keep you posted as and when these ideas begin to sort of develop into something a little bit more concrete. And that's it for this latest update. Those two BNSF trains have moved out of town, and it's time now for the local switcher just to start assembling together the cars that are going to be picked up this afternoon by the Union Pacific through freight service. So I'll leave you with some of those shots, and as always, wish you happy modelling. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon for another update on progress with Fairview. All the best. Bye bye.